why you would want to jump in and get into the city's workings, inner
Well,
workings.
it started about 16, 17 years ago. I went through the Leadership of Marshall County course, a class, seminars, sessions, whatever you want to call it. And during that time, I had met up with several key people during that. I don't want to say key people, but several interesting people.
Sure.
And one of them was Mark Center at the time. And Mark was going to run for city council, and yet through other conversations with some other people within the city, was encouraged to run for mayor, and which he did, and he ran against Mayor Cook at the time and had won. And kind of, I tell the story because it's true. I was out between Christmas and New Year's, and after that point, Mayor-elect Center had won, and he was preparing to take office January 1. So it's between Christmas and New Year's, and I'm out walking the dog in the neighborhood, and he happened to be outside, and I happened to talk to him for a little bit, and I offered my services. If there's anything that you see in where I can fit or help out, I'm willing to do so. So the following week, he takes office, and then he calls me up and informs me that he is allowed to appoint or recommend individuals for certain boards, and he asked me if I would be willing to serve on the Board of Zoning Appeals, and I said yes, because I had committed to him that I would offer to help. And he said, great. He said, I'm going to recommend you get approval by the council, and oh, by the way, your first meeting is next Tuesday. So I had basically a week or less than a week to assume that role. And so I go along and I join the Board of Zoning Appeals, start learning some of the things that's going on. And in year 2 of serving on the Board of Zoning Appeals, there was a resignation of an individual on the Redevelopment Commission, and I was asked by Mayor Center if I would serve on that commission or that committee, and I said sure, after several conversations, of course. So then I'm serving on the Board of Zoning Appeals along with the Redevelopment Commissions in years 2, 3, and 4 of that term. So now the election comes up. Mayor Center is running for re-election, and they're looking for candidates to run for city council. And in my area is District 2, and I get strong arm. I don't want to say strong arm. I like to make it sound like, very thoughtful.
Yeah, of course.
But anyway, make a long story short, I was asked to run for city council. Talked to my wife; she was in support of it. Talked to 1 or 2 other people; they were also encouraging, and so I ran for city council. In fact, I think you remember that timeline.
Yep.
And so that was my first term, and then ran for re-election, and was encouraged to run for re-election for a 3rd term. And I was debating whether to run for a 4th term or not. I don't like to be considered a, quote, career politician or anything like that. And I consider myself more of a servant rather than a politician.
And your record has shown that, by the way.
I hope so. Thank you for that.
Your record has shown that, my friend.
I appreciate that. I determined that I had still quite a bit of gas in the tank, and I still cared. And so I chose to run for re-election. And so I'm in my 4th term. And so it's with a new mayor. This is different.
Right.
Mayor Listenberger has been very transparent, just like Mayor Center has been. And I'm looking forward to seeing good things continue.
Well, I think we got the right people in the right places, that's for sure. And you in your position, you got to work with everybody. And I mean, that's the thing. And I would imagine every day for you, in every meeting, it's still something new, because something new seems to always pop up.
Well, if you go in with the attitude or the arrogance that you know everything, you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. You try to go in with an open mind, or you have an understanding of what the situation is, and then you need to take time to look into it and make the best decision possible. But to go in with a preconceived knowledge, you think you know it all, you don't.
Right. And see, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad that you understand that, because there's always 2 sides to a story, and there's always 2 sides to a situation. And the fact that you are open-minded about that, and you do your research, you've done your research for the betterment of the city, not for the betterment of Don Ecker. It's been the betterment for the city, or for the betterment for the mayor and what he thinks. You've been very open-minded about that, and that's why you've been here now 4 terms. Again, you walk the walk if you talk the talk, and that's what I always appreciated about you as a councilman. And plus, you are very even keel. As far as I've known you for a long time, and you've always been even keel with things, and I appreciate that, because you got to be, you just got to be.
It's too easy to lose your composure, and sometimes you just got to step back and take a look at it. And there's behind the scenes conversations with other councilmen. Now, obviously it's one-on-one or one-on-two. You got to be careful about the quorum,
Right.
Because we are a transparent administration, and meaning that we can't have side meetings, and we got to make sure that we don't have a majority and that type of thing. But that's where you have a lot of the ideas back and forth. Someone may have a great idea, but what about this and what about that? And so those type of things take into consideration. And what I also appreciate about the council that we had under the last council we had under Mayor Center, and what we currently have under Mayor Listenberger, is that we do have a basically bipartisan, right? I mean, we have several Democrats, we have several Republicans, and ultimately,
But you got a common denominator.
exactly, and we all have to come together and make the best decision possible for the city. And the thing that I've said before, and I'll continue to say it until proven otherwise, is the fact that if anybody, other administration, state, federal, what have you, want to understand how to get along, and when I say get along, work together with a common goal, they need to look at the Plymouth administration. The city council is open and wants to work and wants to make things positive.
Yeah, very transparent.
I think
you use that word well. Okay, so and we're talking again with Don Eckert. He's a Plymouth City Councilman. And with the new mayor, you're getting to see a little bit about how he does things. To me, so far, I think Robert's. You want to speak transparent. He's not afraid to share his thoughts, and then he's even more importantly kind of practices what you try to do as a councilman. Is that when the average John Q. citizen like myself needs to sit down and we have something to talk about, an issue to bring forward, you guys just sit and listen. And I think that's a huge, huge part of being successful in any job you have to begin with. But you're kind of a leader. Your entire council's leading Plymouth here. It's back with the mayor and everybody, the city attorney. You have to sit and you have to listen. And you've done that. You've shown that in your years of working the position now. I like the feel that we got. I mean, is that kind of the same feel on the council right now?
I believe it is. I mean, we each have our own things that we see that need to be done or we would like to see done. But ultimately, you have to prioritize. I mean, you just can't continue to do everything all at once, because if you do that, you don't have a plan. You don't have accountability, or you got
a budget too,
right? And you lose accountability. And so, if we can pick those 4 or 5 priorities and knock one off, then we move one up. Keep doing it, and it's the plan. And so, someone comes to us and say, "Well, we need this right away." Well, in some cases we can, but in other cases, oh, wait a minute, we don't have the funding, or we don't have the infrastructure in place. We don't have whatever the reason may be, and so if it makes sense, and if it's the right thing to do, let's put together a plan, and then let's work towards that plan. Right. And that's what we are continuing into the current administration. I feel that some people say, well, it's not happening fast enough. It may not be, but it is the right thing to do, because then you're planning and you're budgeting, and a lot of the projects we take on, very fortunately, a lot of the projects we take on come in at or under budget, and that's because of the planning efforts.
Yes,
and
that's a very good point.
That's a credit to our department heads.
Yeah,
they understand they have the better feel for what's going on, and we'll ask the questions if we're not sure.
Right. Okay, so last meeting, what happened? What was going on?
Well, it was a pretty uneventful meeting with the Board of Public Works and Safety.
Now, come on, you gotta like that.
Councilman Culp is really is excited because he ran a meeting a couple years ago that was like maybe 8 minutes long, I think 7 or 8 minutes long, and he keeps talking about that. Last night, Mayor Listenberger kept it pretty close. I think he may have actually achieved that.
Achieved that, huh?
But just a couple things on the Board of Public Works and Safety. Number one, we did hire a new gentleman by name of John Kaufman to join the Plymouth Fire Department.
Good.
And he started this past Saturday, and he was pretty active. And so yesterday was his second day on the ship, on the department. So we welcome him onto it. The couple other things is that the park department, along with the cemetery, had come before us last night to request permission for burn piles. They have coordinated with the Chief Hollum and the Plymouth Fire Department to make sure things are under control. But it's an annual spring event, so to speak.
Right.
Because they accumulate all this stuff during the off season or the winter months, and then they need to get rid of it come springtime. St. Michael's came before us last night looking for a permission to run their fourth annual program. They actually been doing it for 4 years, excuse me. And so there'll be a street closure from 7 to 10 on that coming up. And then the last thing on the Board of Public Works and Safety, we just want to touch base on the LaPorte Street parking lot across there where there had been barreled off. That has been secured to a point, and it's been prepped, and we will be working towards getting that completely resolved and built up. And then also we will be resurfacing and putting new parking lines in. So we'll be updating that, and that'll be over the next 4 to 6 weeks probably.
So we got it level now.
We got that under control, right?
That's great, because that's an awful lot of work, because that's along the river.
It is.
You know, and the last thing you want to start doing is losing some main ground to the river.
No doubt.
Yeah,
And we had that sinking,
Right.
that area sinking, and that
Yeah.
Jim Marquardt and his team have done a nice job of getting that stabilized. And then we've got some contracting work that'll be coming in and taking care of that, finishing it off for us. So we've got that resolved, or partially resolved,
Right.
and will be permanently resolved. Then we moved into the city council meeting. We had to wait around for a while because we posted it at 6:30.
Right.
We just can't immediately go into it if it's done before, if the Board of Public Works and Safety is done before 6:30. So then we moved into the city council meeting, and it was also short. It was nothing breathtaking, so to speak, but we did get a presentation by Mary Ann Peters for the Marshall County Yard Waste Facility, and there's going to be a meeting at the Solid Waste Department on May 15th at 6 p.m. It's a Wednesday, to begin a conversation about that. For those who don't know where the Solid Waste Department's located, it's at 1900 Walter Glob Drive. And I would encourage you to, if you have any questions, reach out to Mary Ann and her team out there.
She does an amazing job.
She does. And they have two sites that are kind of somewhat in line. No need to talk about that yet because it's just for consideration purposes at this point.
Right.
Then we had a couple CF1s, which is tax abatement requests that came through. We had one for, I should have had those with me, but we had a couple of them that came through for tax abatements that followed through, and Complexus was one of them. They've done a nice job. Nice little business there. They expanded from South Bend into Plymouth a couple years ago, and that's doing a nice job there.
And where's that located?
They are located off Cary Drive out there by the Love's Truck Stop. And then we also had Farm Innovators. It was renewed as well, and they're a small manufacturing operation, but they too have invested equipment, and also, they invested in real estate by expanding several years ago, and they've added people as well.
Wonderful.
And then we also had Riverside Commons, which is almost filled up. It's about 90% full right now, and that's been a nicely done project led by Kevin Berger at Easterday Construction. I've walked through several of those units out there, and I like the way they're organized. It's similar to what's down in Culver.
Right.
From there, then we moved into the vacation policy, and I just want to commend Jen Klingerman, our HR manager, along with Jeff Huyen, our city attorney, Lynn Gorski, our clerk treasurer, as well as Dave Morrow and Linda Starr from the city council, came together, put together revising the employee employee handbook, I should say, along with the vacation policy. One of the nice features that's being considered, we haven't voted on it yet, but one of the nice features that we are working on is modifying the vacation policy so that if an employee who has been with the city for 15 years, they're eligible for 4 weeks vacation.
Good. Yeah.
The challenge, however, is when do you find time to take 4 weeks vacation?
Well,
Some people struggle with that. So rather than use it or lose it, what we are allowing them to do, if they have 4 weeks or more, if you're at 25 years, you're eligible for 5 weeks. But at 4 weeks or 5 weeks eligibility of vacation, if you're not going to be able to use all of it, you're going to be allowed to sell 1 week back and continue working. So, for example, if I'm scheduled for vacation next week but I chose not to, and I want to sell a week back, I can go ahead and do that. I'll get compensated for that 40 hours, and I'll still be able to work. And that's
interesting.
well, it's not so much interesting per se. It's interesting for the city, let me rephrase that. But it's a common practice within the private sector in manufacturing. And so the company I retired from 4 years ago had a similar policy. We had that, and we would have employees that had 4 weeks or 5 weeks vacation, but they couldn't utilize, or they didn't see a need for it, or they needed financial a boost, what have you. So they would sell a week back, up to 40 hours. And so if I have 4 weeks vacation, but I only eligible for 4 weeks vacation, but I only want to be able to take 3 weeks
You
time
get
off.
compensated for the last
Exactly.
one. I like it. I
So
think it's a
that-
good idea.
And that's fair, and that's another benefit of
Yes, it
working for
is.
the city.
Yes, it is.
Then just wrap it up real quick. We had gift donation from Hoosier Old Wheels for $50. That's going to go towards food program. And then we received a $1,000 gift from Collins Construction, and that is actually going towards the Mayor Month's of music.
Nice.
So, because these bands come in, there's a cost associated with it, and it's all through private donations that these
Right.
bands are covered. It does not come out of the city taxpayers' money. Of course, they're all down at River Park Square. which
It's
is
a great
continuing.
event. It's a great community event. It
Oh, I
really
see a
is.
lot of people there. So a lot of good things going in as we get closer to it. We'll have streets and sidewalk projects coming on spring during the summer. Also mentioned too, real quick, tonight at 6 o'clock we have a streetscape presentation by Jones Petrie. We have that coming on at 6 o'clock, and then we also have.
Where's that at, real quick?
It's going to be held at the Reese. Thank you
Okay.
for asking.
Okay.
And then we will also, from our comprehensive plan for the city, moving plan 2040, we will actually have an intern coming in about mid to late May, and we'll be here through early August to help us continue to implement the comprehensive plan that we've
Right.
established. A lot of things going on.
Well, and you did a great job for being on the show for the first time. I love it. You had a good pace, better than Robert. But don't tell Robert that.
Well,
No, I love it. I appreciate you coming in because it's nice to know what our council people do. You know, a lot of people don't understand. You know, it's a tough job and with a lot of responsibility. And so I'm glad you took the time here to kind of educate our listeners a little bit about what you do and just how well you do it. So
I appreciate it. I appreciate the time on the radio, and hopefully this is beneficial for the citizens of Plymouth.
well, you know, you got an open door, man. So you are more than welcome to come in as often as you want.
Well, we appreciate that. Thank you. And also, I will mention to you that working with the mayor, we are working to bring the group of council people to represent you, or represent the city on a monthly basis.
Yes.
So alternate between you and the city council representative and the mayor. So you'll see several people. come
Several
through
people come in. Well, we're glad you had us. Well, we had you today, though.
Well, I appreciate
You
it.
know, I think the world of you, and just because I've known you, you're a great guy. But you've also done a great job keeping the city of Plymouth #1 in mind with your decision making. So, and that's all we can ask for.
So we appreciate it, and we do appreciate public input as well.
Absolutely. Don Ecker, Plymouth City Councilman, joining us here today on the show. We have got our friends from First Source Bank coming up here in just a little bit, and we're going to talk about something that unfortunately is a big trend happening, and it's about fraud. And we're going to come back and talk with Mindy Overmeyer and crew when we come back.